from Martin, who is in Glasgow, towards the north of the UK, down via me in the southwest of the UK. And we're going to move for our next speaker towards, I was going to say the middle of the UK, but Joe will probably correct me and tell me he's in the north. Our next speaker is Joe Diamond. He works for the Square Kilometre Array Communications Group, so the SKA. Joe's been working in communications and outreach for 7 years, first in Australia and now in the UK. Before he started working in astronomy communications, his first degree is in is in biochemistry. Can't even read the words on my screen. So he's a trained biochemist, so he has a general love for science, and I will pass you over to Joe.
Brilliant. Well, thank you a lot, Fraser. Hopefully you can hear me okay. Brilliant. So hello, everybody. As Fraser said, my name is Joe Diamond. I just first want to say I think I'll be trying Martin's Inspo toast at some point very soon when next at the pub. So I'm the Communications and Outreach Officer for the Square Kilometre Array Organisation, or also known as the SKA. And first I'd like to thank the organising committee and the scientific organising committee of the GHOU for letting me speak today at this fantastic conference. So as Fraser has mentioned, I've been working in communications and outreach for around 7 years now, and that includes working at the SKA for more than about 5 years. So my talk is on educational outreach with the SKA and how to do public engagement on a global scale. So I'll be discussing with you today the various challenges and solutions to creating an effective communications and outreach program to hopefully better engage with the public for the various modern tools that we and at the SKA and that our partners have developed and used to achieve this goal. So I'll try to just share my slides now. Is that sharing now, Fraser?
That's sharing. If you can do the full screen. There you go. That's perfect.
Brilliant. So go to the first slide. So right now, we live in an era of modern astronomy with mega facilities and projects being constructed and some already operational. So all of them fitting together like a giant jigsaw, exploring our universe at different wavelengths, as you see on the electromagnetic spectrum that's coming up at the bottom there. So from the radio astronomy facilities and the such as ALMA being built in the or having built up high in the Atacama Desert to the future James Webb Space Telescope, which hopefully should be launched in 2021. And so the SKA is going to fit down the left-hand side in the radio wavelength. So what is the SKA? So the SKA is a global collaboration to design and build and operate what will be the next generation radio astronomy observatory. So a treaty has already been signed to establish the SKA Observatory, so become a new intergovernmental organization for astronomy, a bit like the UN or CERN, and it'll be producing fundamental science with a 50-year lifetime. And so the SKA will consist of an array of 197 dishes in South Africa and around 132,000 what we call low antennas. They look like almost Christmas trees or little antennas that are attached to your house in Australia. And with the global HQ being in the UK. So that's where we'll organize the design and construction activities. And then along with that, we'll have two data processing centers in Australia and South Africa, and a global network of regional centers to deliver the science-ready data to all the users once telescopes start doing science. So the governments working on this project will be providing 1.9 billion euros for the 2021 to 2030 time, and this will cover our construction in our first 10 years of operations. So I just wanted to quickly show you the sites. So our first site is in the Karoo in South Africa, and as this brief animation shows, as it zooms in on South Africa, or the Africa continent. And from there, we have the SKA mid dishes, and these will be located about 600 kilometers northeast of Cape Town. And we already have instruments on the ground. So we have the Meerkat array, and there's 64 dishes already built and producing science, and they are a precursor to testbed technologies for the SKA. Along with that, we have the Murchison site in Western Australia, as the video just plays. Brilliant. And so these will be the SKA low frequency antennas, as you see here, like almost like Christmas tree looking antennas. And these will be 600 kilometers north of Perth. And we chose these locations just as Martin said, with choosing locations for political reasons, geographical reasons, and astronomical reasons, because there's nothing out there. It's very, very barren areas, but great for astronomy. And we also have the 2 precursor telescopes already producing science out there, one being the ASCAP, so the Australian SKA Pathfinder facility, and the MWA, so the Murchison Wide Field Array. And they are also producing science right now as well. So I just want to give you some numbers about these telescopes again. So the 3 sites, as I just mentioned, and so the SKA1 mid, so it's looking at the mid frequency between 350 megahertz and 15.3 gigahertz. We'll have 197 dishes of those. And with the low dishes in Australia, they're looking at the lower end of the frequency, so 50 to 350 megahertz. And we'll have about 512 stations of those with 256 of these low frequency antennas in there. And eventually for phase 2 of the SKA, they will be expanding further in Australia and other African countries. So why are we building these telescopes? So there's many key science drivers for the SKA, from the cosmic dawn to galaxy evolution to the cradle of life, or even as Martin said in his talk, exploring the theories of Einstein's views on gravitational waves. So hopefully the SKA will be able to maybe pinpoint the sources or the beginnings of these waves. So it's an enormous breadth of science, but some of the fantastic things that comes out of discovery is the exploration of the unknown, what we don't know and what we discover with such amazing mega facilities. So as of present, right now, we have 14 countries that are involved in the SKA, with potential future members in South Korea and Japan. And so it's 14 countries with all their member institutes as well. And eventually we'll also have some Africa partnered countries in phase 2 as well, once we start building further into the African countries. And just recently, when I mentioned that we've become an IGO or becoming an IGO, our treaty was signed in Rome on the 12th of March 2019. This is a photo of that day. And right now, the treaty is being ratified in the member countries that signed in Rome. And this is just a brief timeline of the SKA. So right now, as I said, the treaty was signed. Right now, we have just finished our major reviews for construction. And so next year, we are going out into construction. By the end of this year, hopefully as well, all the countries have ratified. And so the observatory will then exist. Construction will begin in 2021. And then from then, it takes about 4 or 5 years to build this facility. And then science commissioning will begin in about 2024, 2025. And then by then, the SKA will be fully constructed and we'll start our full operations. So as you might realize, it's a truly global project. And for a communications person like me, it's a true headache, but in the best way possible. And so why it's a headache in a sense is that there's the challenges of a large project like this, communication challenges. And so some of these challenges I've detailed here. So it's like getting the same consolidated message across all the channels globally, how to get these countries and the institutes involved to represent the SKA through the various language and cultural barriers. Each country organization has their own agenda. So how do we get them to align their message with ours? And then finally, in the end, how do we disseminate the same message to the public? And how do we educate adults and children alike on the SKA and overall the importance of the science that we're doing? And so how do we overcome this? So I believe from my own experience, you start by creating and building relationships with your community. So whether it's your science community, whether it's a public community, or colleagues such as yourselves, you need to build a relationship to start spreading your message, essentially. So first, you need to understand yourself what the message is that you want to get across, and then be consistent in reiterating the same message constantly. So it's tough to do that. As we all know, this is why we're here, for the communication tools and the outreach tools that we develop. But one thing I always find is don't reinvent the wheel. So research and source the amazing educational communication tools that the community produces, and have developed over the years to help deliver these kind of messages. And then finally, be present, whether it's digitally like today or physically in conferences. So you want to be present on social media or conferences or schools or science exhibitions, just to keep educating the people or your community on your message. And so the way we do that at the SKA, we've created something called the SKACON. So it's called the SKA Communications and Outreach Network. This is composed of a variety of professionals in communications or education or outreach, and they're from our SKA partner countries and also from the prospective member countries as well. And they serve as liaisons for the SKA on all types of matters of education, stakeholder engagement, and also comms and outreach. These members belong to institutes of the member countries and or are strongly connected, and so they have an invested interest in our goal, in our project. And so within the SKACON as well, there are various working groups. The objectives of these groups is to ensure communications and outreach projects get undertaken at the global level, but also to maximize the amount of impact we can deliver with the limited amount of resources that we have. And so this is just a brief little diagram I'm putting up now of how that works. So you start with the SKA comms team at the global HQ where I work, and there's 5 of us in the team. So we help develop those policies and hopefully those tools. And then that gets spread down to the SKACON, where there's about 35 people in our network from the various member countries, and they act as liaisons and help implement these initiatives locally. And then in a more strategic kind of sense, we have a comms steering committee who help develop these global strategies and align to only not national strategies, but also to like their government levels as well. And this is shared by our comms director at the SKA and has 16 people in it from our member countries. So with this network, we're now able to collate, share, and coordinate outreach and educational resources across the planet. And so what I want to talk to you about right now is some of those resources that we have. Just bear with me. So starting with our own tools, the SKA website and our social media channels is our primary hub where we engage and update our community. The public and anyone else, the public and anyone else who's interested in going. Since it allows us to post announcements and press releases, along with being able to host a range of resources, which include all our outreach tools. So talking about these tools, I just wanted to give a brief snapshot on what we developed at the SKHQ and also collaborated with other partners. So this isn't an exhaustive list. I would like to, but since I haven't had time to list everything, but I just wanted to highlight what I could now during this talk. So starting off, we have our virtual reality. So this is our virtual reality platform, which we developed for the Oculus Rift. This platform, and you can see the image of the young girl here enjoying using the VR headset to access it, allows the user to experience the sites in full 360 panoramic images and videos to truly get a grasp of the telescopes that the crew and Murchison, since we want people to experience it, but we don't want people to actually really go because they'll interfere with the science. So along with these images and science videos that they see, there's a variety of information panels as well that help better explain what they're seeing and what's going on at the site. Secondly, we work a lot with the citizen science projects such as Radio Galaxy Zoo and Zooniverse. And these are fantastic projects which allows people at home to use their own personal computers to help identify and classify galaxies or planets or other astronomical objects using real data from real observations, since these data packets are massive and astronomers or researchers cannot do it all themselves. So citizen science projects like this really do help. Next, we have our printed material, which we've designed and developed a range of like, let's say, infographics or brochures for the public. This helps to better explain the science and goals of the SKA. So that's the infographics there. And this was a poster we made about resolution, survey speed, and sensitivity of the telescopes. Along with these, we've also started creating our own SKA magazine called Contact, based maybe off the film Contact with Jodie Foster, but we try and say it wasn't, but it does have its similarities. This project's become a bit of a labor of love for us since it's now our 5th edition, and involves a series of articles of all types of subjects relating to the SKA, being engineering, science, or technology, and obviously outreach as well. We also have a different form of outreach. Oh, sorry, I forgot about this one as well. We have also worked with a series of comic book artists. So we've created a comic book called the Cosmic Adventures of Alice and Bob. And so this is another just light-hearted way, another publication to get kids reading comics, but also understanding the basics of radio astronomy and also why we choose certain sites as well. So the next form of outreach we have is a bit different, but it's that of a touring art exhibits known as Shared Sky. So this was created with Aboriginal and South African artists to celebrate humanity's cultural wisdom surrounding the night sky. It reflects the artist's ancestors' understanding of the night sky and the stories that were told and passed down. So these stories were then told in the form of the Shared Sky artwork. The artwork's been on tour, exhibiting in many cities globally over the years, but because of the recent events with the pandemic, we've now released the full exhibit online digitally for everyone to enjoy. So please do check it out on our website. So going from artwork to engineering, we've also developed an engineering kit with our colleagues at Jodrell Bank. It is an educational engineering kit that teaches children the basics of engineering through fun tools and how these basics can be applied to astronomy and telescopes, such as this image using a parabolic microphone and how the capturing of sound with the microphone can show why we have parabolic dishes for our telescopes. But this kit has also been peer-reviewed and uploaded to the Astro EDU website that was mentioned in Marcus Posell's talk. And so I encourage you to check this out on the Astro EDU website. And finally, we also created a range of amazing facts to better wow and amaze the public on what it takes to build something like the SKA, such as the amount of fiber optic cable needed for the site, so the amount of computing power needed to handle all the data coming in. So, so now I've talked about what we've done at the HQ. I want to just briefly talk about against the snapshot of what our partner institutes around the world have produced for educational resources and tools. So I want to start off in Italy. So our colleagues at the Italian National Institute for Astrophysics, they too have created a virtual reality headset, and another gentleman very much enjoying it here. And this plunges the users into the future SKA in South Africa, where they can learn about SKA science and technology and observational performance. So you're actually able to handle and play around with a data cube in the virtual reality. They've also created a series of labs, what they call labs, but it's like a series of workshops. The first being the Radio Treasure Hunt, which is an educational activity for high school students to raise their awareness of radio interference and why telescopes like the SKA are constructed in radio quiet and remote zones. The next tool or lab was called Talking About Resolution, another educational activity for primary school students to present all issues related to the choice of the best resolution for radio astronomy observations in terms of results, cost, and time consumption, and also the data flux. Just checking my time. The next workshop is called color coding. It's a tool for students to explain the concept of that radio data is invisible, and radio images stem from number grids through false color imaging techniques. So it's a very, very cool activity for students to do. And then finally, like all of us, INAF are present in many public events. They host a range of events to showcase the breadth in science and technology, along with the social and human impact of the SKA. Many of these events include educational workshops for kids, digital planetarium shows, video projects of INAF and SKA telescopes, and usually a roundtable with experts for Q&A. So now I want to go to the Netherlands. Well, so that's a video of one of their talks right there, actually, for the INAF. So, like I said, going to the Netherlands, another partners to Astrom. They have a range of printed material, of brochures and print material that they've translated in Dutch to target not only their parliaments, but to join the SKA, but also be handed out to the public to educate them on the SKA and the benefits of Dutch involvement. And that's another image of one of these brochures that they produced. Next up, they didn't produce a VR experience, but with us, we developed by the SKA, we've printed and shipped a range of branded Google Garboard VR headsets as seen in this picture here. They're very inexpensive to produce, and so we sent a lot to our partner countries such as the Netherlands and to Astron, so that teachers can use them in classrooms to access the SKA virtual reality platform that I just showed you using a mobile phone. So all kids usually have a mobile phone, and so they can use their mobile phone with this cardboard headset that has special lenses to then go on a website to then look at the virtual reality platform, and it works very well. And again, Astron too also attend many public conferences talking about the SKA and have educational workshops in the Netherlands. So next up we have Germany, so the Max Planck Institute for Radio Astronomy. Theirs is a bit more technical, so they've produced a variety of printed publications, presentations, and printed material in German to highlight and elaborate on the German companies involved in the SKA. So some of these stories have been present in a variety of German magazines, such as this one here. So even though they are more technical pieces, they reach out to a more technical audience in German society. And so this is some of the images that they've sent me of some of the publications that they had produced. So this next section is quite a large list. However, my colleagues at ICRAR, the International Centre for Radio Astronomy Research, who are based at Perth in Australia, working alongside their peers at the Department of Industry and CSIRO, are some of the finest educational communicators I've had the pleasure to work with. I think it shows it in the following snapshot of activities I'm about to talk about, which they have developed over the years and of course are still developing now. So first off, we have How a Radio Telescope Works. This is a educational video with very playful graphics on how astronomers have different ways of watching the universe. After that, we now have the virtual tour of the Murchison. So it's another VR platform created by ICRAR, CSIRO, and our Australian SK office. This is a virtual tour of the MRO, the Murchison out in Western Australia, which also includes information and 360 panoramic views of all the key locations on site from a drone and also from standing at the base of a telescope. So you feel the true sense of what it's like to be up next to these 50-meter size telescopes. So it's truly impressive what they've produced there. Next is the Gleamoscope and the Gleamoscope VR. Some of you may have used this before. It's a fantastic tool which allows users to see the visible universe as well as the sky as seen with radio eyes, essentially, so other wavelengths, which you can switch between and see the difference. So here's a couple of examples now of how that works. So here you see it in the far infrared, next in the microwave, and the first one was visible. So it's a very cool tool to show children and adults alike how astronomers see the night sky in the different wavelengths and the tools or telescopes that we use to see it. So next up is it's a very, very cool tool. I think it's called SKA in Augmented Reality. So this is a interactive augmented reality app where you download the app, and then also you download a sheet for the app where you print and color in this working sheet, and then the app will then make the dish with your design in augmented reality come alive. And this next photo is an example of that. So someone drew on their sheets some blue and orange stars, and then with their phone, they look at the sheet, and then suddenly the telescope is born with their design on it. So it's a very fun, very cool tool to demonstrate the telescopes for the SKA, and also just to have a little bit of fun with when coloring in. So the next activity I want to talk about is the the Final Frontier Educational Activity Series. This is a range of fantastic educational resources for all student levels to teach children about the universe, whilst also celebrating the 50th anniversary of the first moon landing. I don't have a picture for the next one, but it's called Cosmos Computing. This is a workshop activity which aims to help students understand and answer how computers work through an immersive, interactive role-playing environment. So students act as different components of a computer, and they work together to perform a program or an algorithm to hopefully produce an image on a display. So it's a very hands-on activity, but it's also very fun. And in the end results, they get a visual reward. The next up is weighing a galaxy. So this is using real data from optical and radio telescopes. And they've developed a working sheet with this on their website that goes through all the steps on how to weigh a galaxy. After that, and I've seen that this was mentioned in previous talks, the same concept is the Spirit Telescope. This is an amazing project. It allows students, educators, researchers as well to access this world-class internet accessible telescope that can carry out planned observations by using it. So I just wanted to show you a few examples of these observations that were made by members of the public or by kids at schools. And so as you can see here, there's fantastic results were made. And so I think it's an amazing tool for science teachers who want to get their students to actually create some observations and then try and learn from that. And then lastly, I want to talk about that ICRAR, and again, this is not an exhaustive list, but they created something called the Electromagnetic Spectrum webpage with a video as well. So it's a very interactive and very visual website that helps to teach students about electromagnetic spectrum in a fun and interactive way. And this is also accompanied by a series of videos on the matter. And again, this is presented and explained in a very clever and easy to understand way by one of ICRAR's own astrophysicists. So still keeping in Australia, I want to move on to, that's actually a snippet from that video of the said astrophysicist. So keeping in Australia, I want to talk about activities from SARAO. So they produced a Window to the Universe teacher resource guide. This is an activity series and resource guide for teachers teaching year 10 science in Australia. So mid-level science for high schoolers. And so all copies were sent to every high school in Australia and are still available on their websites. From there, they've done a variety of teacher development programs. They run numerous of these programs across the whole of Australia, hosting workshops, school visits, teacher training and science festivals. And finally, just like the Spirit program, they have their own called Pulse at Parkes. So it's using the 64-meter radio telescope, the Parkes telescope, which is a SK Pathfinder telescope. And also, if you ever watched the film Dish, that's the dish in the film Dish. This is similar to the Spirit project, where high school students have an opportunity to control the famous Parkes radio telescope and also observe pulsars under the guidance of professional astronomers. This has been running since about 2007, and so it's quite an old project. And I think the numbers they've run about 190 sessions with over 2,200 high school students involved, plus hundreds of teachers and university students. So moving across to South Africa, to our colleagues, the South African Radio Astronomy Observatory, or also known as SARAO. They got a fantastic range of activities that they've been doing. The first one is the DARA program. This is known as the Development in Africa with Radio Astronomy program. This is a joint UK-South African Newton Fund program in human capital development to help drive economic development in Africa. The project's aims are to help develop high-tech skills using radio astronomy in a number of African countries, since radio astronomy basically encompasses all of the major STEM skills. Next after that, and it's a bit like the comic I showed earlier, is the Mission Meerkat. It's a joyful cartoon series that explains how radio astronomy works and why this telescope, the SKA and Meerkat telescope, is being built in the Karoo. After that, the SARAO team hosts numerous public open days on the site in the Karoo. This is one of those images of those days. They send out kids, adults, presidents, all types of people all the time. And so visitors are transported to the SK site. And from here, they learn an interesting range of facts about the telescopes and the surrounding Karoo site. They've also been hosting big data schools. So where young science and engineering students take part in a big data school, where the aim is to teach students important techniques when working with large data sets, which are coming in the astronomy field or are present now. So where by learning these skills, they can apply them to their own research. And then finally, they also annually hold a National Science Week. So this is an event to exhibit and communicate awareness of science. And this time it was held in Kimberley in the Northern Cape, as you can see this image here. And it also helps to celebrate science with the public taking part in these science-based activities. And then finally, I just want to end this on in India. So our colleagues at NCRA, so the National Center of Radio Astrophysics. So in the first of its kind, India organized a major expedition to showcase the mega projects that India is involved in. It's called Vignyan Samagam, or the Confluence of Scientific Ideas in Hindi. It covered participation in the SKA, in CERN, FAIR, INO, ITER, LIGO, and TMT. So it traveled to 4 major Indian cities, staying for a couple of months in each one before moving to the next one. Its first stop was in Mumbai, and it saw more than 200,000 visitors go through the exhibit in Mumbai. So I didn't see the numbers for the entire time it was exhibiting in all 4 cities, but I could imagine the reach was incredible. And so the SKA, each time it was in a city, had a dedicated week. And during these weeks, the lectures were given to the general public, along with quiz competitions, a large interactive stand, telescope making competitions, just many hands-on demonstrations. And these are some of the photos from that event. I just want to overall say that is a huge undertaking by our Indian colleagues, and it's a prime example of mega science educational outreach. And so I just want to applaud them for what they pulled off, and it was a joy being a part of working with them to deliver this. And so again, what they did to achieve this in all 4 cities, and it's a grueling time. In 2 months per city, they need a lot of volunteers, you need a lot of talkers coming up. It truly was amazing. So I do applaud them for that. So that was the brief snapshot of some of our activities. And so all of these resources will be available. All these resources and many more will be available on the SKA website. And a lot of these that aren't there will be put up there. And if you want to reach out to us for these activities, you can contact myself or any member of the SKA communications team. And so I want to talk about finally just some lessons learned. So as you can see, with all these projects I just mentioned, you can't do everything at once. You need to prioritize and pace yourself. Sorry, let me just zoom away on my screen. Yeah, so you need to prioritize and pace yourself when taking on projects, and because if not, you and your team can quickly get overwhelmed. So a lot of these projects are a marathon, not a sprint. So another point is that no matter how many channels of contact you have with your community, with your collaborators, with your colleagues, it may always be tough to get your message across, or even sometimes get a reply back. But persistence is key. So just keep trying to send the right message to the right people constantly. As I've mentioned in my talk now, and for example, the virtual reality platforms, the duplication of work is a fact of life. So you do want to try your best to maximize your time and resources with prior research into whatever project you're attempting. And so some of these projects may already exist. And so you want to try and maybe capitalize on existing work and either reach out and try and collaborate with people or trying to improve on it. I mean, for instance, I've probably mentioned 4 or 3 SKA virtual reality platforms. Time would have better be spent if we could maybe all collaborate together and pool our resources to have one even better platform. And that's just one example of this duplication of work. And finally, in the age of disinformation that we live in right now, when communicating through whatever channel you are doing so by, just keep sticking to the scientific facts research by your community when sharing with the public. Educational outreach is more important than ever right now, and so keeping a united front of research-driven facts is pivotal. And when explaining to science to all, to the public, to children, to your parents, to your cousins, to everybody. And so I just want to talk about finally our future ambitions of the SKA, and definitely at the SKA HQ as well. So we continue to collaborate on educational and outreach programs with the community for the promotion of astronomy and science. Right now, soon we'll be hiring a educational manager to proactively develop educational opportunities at the HQ. So this education manager will be helping develop curriculum-based activities that could be implemented in SKA member countries, that are also supporting the national programs, as well as developing partnerships with other education-focused offices that you will hear today. So the IAU, OAD, OAE, OAO, there's a lot of O's in the acronyms, but and the Universal Awareness in Leiden. For instance, we have teamed up with the IAU's OAO to help fund, develop, and deliver a new range of radio astronomy outreach activities. So these activities should become available next year. We're trying to also establish ourselves in the host countries starting next year once construction begins. So we'll be working with local stakeholders to help enhance their programs. And finally, I want to end on, so the GHO's or the HOU's core mission is to train teachers on the use of modern tools and resources for science education and engage students in international scientific projects. So many of our partners, many that I've detailed today, have developed fantastic tools for students and teachers to use scientific data. The SKA is a bit early on developing our own tools, since the SKA isn't built yet and we're not producing science. But however, once we are built and we are producing science in the future, the SKA data, once that's available, there will be a component of citizen science and also teacher training. And that's my talk. So thank you all for listening.
Joe, thank you very much. That was really, really interesting, really, really good stuff. If it's okay, I think we have a couple of questions that I can throw at you.
Sure.
Do you take a breather for a minute?
Thank you.
I'll start you off with an easy one. So we have a question from Jacob Brown, who's saying about he was interested in the cosmos computing. So do you have a link for that at all?
Yes, I can provide a link. I wanted to, on our SK website, I've also wanted to create a Word document of all these resources that I could share a Dropbox link once I've compiled it all. So that can be shared in the very near future.
Perfect. Talking about links, you may want to have a look at Christos's comments in the Q&A. So he is working on GWs in his school. So he's got some links there you might want to have a look at and just see if he's doing the right thing. And then here's a broader one. This will probably keep you going for a little while. In your introduction, so I stated, I think correctly, because I'm sure you told me this, that you were a biochemist.
Yes.
Azim is a biochemist as well, and he was wondering if you could share something about your journey, I guess, as a biochemist and how that got you into astronomy, maybe.
Well, when I was younger, I enjoyed biology chemistry, and so I naturally went to biochemistry university. I left university with a degree in biochemistry, but then I realized quite early on that this wasn't the path for me. I wasn't enjoying the lab-based work as much as I thought, and so I changed my career paths and have a natural history of astronomy in my family. And so, I always enjoyed communications and outreach as well. So I had an opportunity to work as a communicator in Australia, actually in Perth. And from then, the love for astronomy just grew, and also communicating and educating public as well. And then eventually I found my way at the SKA as well.
Okay. I think that's everything I think that we have in the questions. There were a couple of bits in the chat about New Delhi and the SKA component. I think Martin was there, so he had a look at that. Let me throw one at you, because I'm not sure if you covered this at the beginning. If you did, I apologize. Maybe I just wasn't paying attention. What does the SKA do in terms of radio astronomy that isn't being done already? What sort of objects or what sort of science is going to be new?
That's a tough question.
in 20 minutes or less.
In 20 minutes or less. I mean, as I could show you with that one slide, that's sharing now. We're covering a huge range of science. So we actually have our project scientists in the SKA HQ who work with a range of what we call our science working groups. Our science working groups each look at individual aspects of what kind of research the SKA wants to do. So that ranges from the cradle of life, cosmic dawn, to fast radio bursts, which are the most popular subject right now, to black holes, as like Martin said about LIGO and collaborating with them on gravitational waves. We'll also be looking at cosmic magnetism, and also working with SETI, so the search for extraterrestrial life as well. So I believe one of my scientists colleagues said that the SKA will be humanity's best ground-based chance at detecting signals in the universe. So let's say, for instance, Jodrell Bank, which is our neighbor telescope, can detect a mobile phone on, let's say, as far as Mars. We'll be able to detect a mobile phone 10 light years away, or anything that produces that kind of signal. So the science is, like I said, 12 working groups, all covering different range of science. It's massive. But then, as I also mentioned, that some of the exciting things, and I think this is what you're getting at, Fraser, is the things that we don't know about. So what we will discover with such a sensitive instrument. So it's a tough question to answer, but the answers are out there. We just need to have an instrument to try and detect them.
Cool. It's the known unknowns and the unknown unknowns, isn't it?
Exactly.
Joe, there's one question that's just popped up. Let me just check. So I think this will be your last question, and then we'll let you go, and we'll take a break then until what's going to be until 9 UT. So one more question. This probably probably be aimed at most of the scientists here today, but you're on the spot. So Azim is asking, what's your experience of funding before and during the pandemic? Is it affected in any way, or will there be any effect to the field?
I mean, the pandemic's obviously affected all walks of life, and that includes all projects as well. Luckily, as you saw in my slide, that we had the Intergovernmental Organization treaty signed by 7 countries in Rome. And so this kind of guaranteed their participation, along with the 14 that we have now, who will hopefully be signing the treaty at a later point. And so that money or that funding is pretty much locked in the bank. And so it wasn't the funding that that sometimes is the problem, like right now with the pandemic. It's just more the effect on the schedule. You know, so we all had to suddenly work from home. We all had to suddenly uplift our lives and discover a new way of working. And so that's just delayed things just slightly. And so that was probably the major drawback of this project. But luckily we had our partner countries and the governments involved are still very much part of the project and truly believe in the SKA.
Sure, I guess you're right. I guess projects on this scale run over time scales of 10, 20, 30 years, don't they? From inception to sort of operation.
Well, exactly, because nothing like this has ever been built before.
And this is hopefully just a little bump in the road.
Yeah.
Okay, Joe, I'm going to say thank you very much again. Hopefully you'll be sticking around. If there are any other Q&As that come up, we'll fire them your way.
Fantastic.
But you've certainly earned your break. I'm going to pass everyone over to Gustavo then for now.
Very well. Thank you very much.
Okay.